Morning, everybody. I guess we are still in the morning session. And thank you, Jeremy, for inviting me to come here. As he said, I'm a potato guy now. Did rice quite a bit of years at ERI. During the 2007-8 rice crisis, I was at ERI, and Mr. Arthur Yap was the secretary here. So we worked together quite a bit that time during the first crisis there. Now we are in somewhat of a crisis right now. Not as bad as it was in 2008, 7, 8, but it is still a crisis because India's position in the global rice market in terms of the shareholding, other things there. But we are moving through it. I think as Jeremy was mentioning, there's plenty of rice right now in the world, We have a crisis, but there is rice in the warehouses sitting in many countries there. And what I would not talk about what is happening in Indian rice when they will lift the ban, all the speculation. There are a lot of other more knowledgeable people here. We have a very senior editor from Hindu Business Online. He will be talking this afternoon, and he has a lot more inside information than I do in terms of what is happening in India. So I think everybody wants to know what is happening in India, what will happen in the next 4 or 5 months, which can make the trade, rice market upside down. As this morning somebody mentioned, rice might go down by $100 overnight if India decides to enter the market again, particularly the white rice there. So I'm not going to speculate on that. There are a lot of more people from Rajiv, I think, Mr. Rajiv. He will, after me, he knows more than me about the Indian rice industry and where we are and what we are doing. So you'll get to hear from them on Indian side and how things will be moving. And also Jeremy mentioned about the Indian Rice Conference. I've actually hand-twisted him to enter India. This guy has never been to India. Can you believe that? His majority of his clients are from India, from the subcontinent, and he's not been in India. So I'm going to help him to do the India conference in early April. We are thinking of Delhi, Hyderabad, one of those, or Bangalore, one of those locations there. I encourage all of you to come and attend the meeting, particularly from outside, to know what is happening in India. We are all looking at the 22 million ton rice exports, but we don't know anything internally the supply side, what's happening there. I think Jeremy mentioned about the irrigation improvement in India there. India has literally, many people disagree, India has made the rice monsoon proof to some extent. People will not believe it, many will disagree, but that is true. The impact of flood probably more than the drought in India. So the impact of any sort of monsoon delay or monsoon disappearing in the Middle East has little lesser impact in India now than what it was before. So any sort of monsoon effect on rice is much less today than what it was in 5-10 years ago. And I'm telling you one thing here. I think many people disagree with me. India will be exporting 30 million ton by 2030. India will be exporting 30 million ton. Yes, I'm standing here. I'll be standing here in 2030. I'll be talking to you. India will be exporting 30 million ton, considering what is happening the supply side and the demand side there. So let me digress to my presentation here. Talk a little bit more on the medium term and things happening behind the scene in globally in the rice sector and how it will affect the trade particularly there. So this is my outline of the presentation there. Talk a little about the global rice economy, key drivers, both on the supply demand side and the policy side, and how does the future rice global market looks like, and what can be done to make it even better than what we are there. Then I'll close my presentation with a few remarks there. So this is just a normal chart. You see what has happened in the rice supply side, particularly the yield and the acreage there. You see the yield. We have a very steady yield growth for the last 60 years. Rice is one of the most important crop in the world. It is feeding more than half of the global population. More than 4 billion people, where rice is a staple for them there. So if you look little bit more into it, where the growth has come from, where the growth has come from. The red you see, that's where the growth from acreage increase has come. Could not be physical, could be just cropping intensity increase. But majority of the growth, what we have seen from the yield growth, productivity growth, the green one you see, that's the contribution of the yield to the production growth. So as we move forward, as we going into 2030, 2040, I think the green will be the one counting for majority of the growth. Not the acreage. Physical rice acreage actually going down. The only thing is acreage harvested going up because of cropping intensity. Farmers are going from 1 to 2 crops, 2 to 3 crops. That's where the rice acreage is going up there. So as we move forward, yield will be very critical. So I think we have somebody from ERI who will talk about some of the rice varieties in the pipeline, low GI rice, other more biofortified rice. I think those are the ones who will be contributing more in the future there. So if you look at the yield spread, you see the top one in the green, US, Egypt, the kind of outlier there. Then you have the Asian yield there. Wherever the Asia ends, that's where the Africa starts. So African yield, you can see there's a lot more gap between Asia and Africa in terms of paddy yield there. So as we move forward, you can expect some of these African countries to come closer to the Asian yield there. So a lot of potential in Africa. We haven't seen that when it will be achieved, but the yield potential in Africa is a lot more than what we have seen in India there. So just to tell you the spread between Asian and African yield there. Just quickly, I'll just go through the supply, demand, everything there. So this is where the rice consumption, the blue bar you see, total rice consumption in the world, very steady increase. And if you see the red line, that's the per capita level. Even in the last 20 years, average per capita rice consumption has been flat globally. We have seen changes within continent, between countries, but average consumption has been very flat at 65 kilograms per person from mid-80s. That has not changed. And I don't think that's going to change in the future. The average will continue to remain same. We'll see the per capita consumption going up and down in different countries. Africa will be the growth in terms of per capita consumption going up. Some Asian country you will see per capita consumption going up. Many Asian countries you might see declining, including Philippines. You might see some decline in the per capita consumption. India, China, all these things you will see per capita. But if you factor the population growth, then the total will continue to rise. It's the population which is driving the total rice consumption in the world, which will continue because we are going to see 10 billion people in the next 20 years by 2050 there. This is where the growth is happening in the world, in the rice sector. The sub-Saharan Africa, where you see the per capita consumption increasing there. Also, the new rice consumers are coming up. In SSA, rice used to be a luxury commodity. Now it's becoming a staple for many. So you'll see in SSA, the upper income people, they will be moving out of rice. Then there are rural people coming into rice, consuming more rice there. So overall, you will see that growth coming. We are consuming about 60, 70, 80 kilograms in Asia and many countries there. They are in 30. Just look at their populations and they become 40, 50 kilograms per capita consumption. They will be a major consumer of rice going forward in the next 20, 30 years there. They cannot really keep up with their production growth has been significant. If you look at their production growth, you see they're in a different trend there, line there. And you see the import, the green line is the consumption. They really cannot keep up. The production growth cannot really keep up with the consumption. So they are becoming growing importers of rice. I think that's going to continue unless something drastically changes in the continent. They have the potential, but I don't know whether they have the policy setting governance to achieve that potential there. They have land, they have water, they have everything, but they're still not growing rice. This is I think, what I like when Jeremy says there's too much rice in the world. Yeah, if you take the blue line, that's what it is. There's too much rice there. But if you take China out of the equation, then the red bar, that's where we are. We have been literally, the stock to use ratio has been flat for last 15, 20 years. World minus China there. So it's up to you whether you look at China in the equation or China out of the equation when you make your market decision, looking at the stock level there. I look at the red bar. I think Jeremy looks at the blue line. So it's up to you what you look at. Rice is there, but whether it's available to the market or not. I look at that one there. But that's up to you what you want to look at it. Rice market is getting bigger, which is very good news. It used to be 5%, now it's 10% of the production there. But they still lag behind other commodities there. They still lag behind. You can see rice, we have substantial growth in the last 25, 3 decades there. We went from 4% to 10%. But look at the soybean. It is close to 50% of the soybean product produced now traded. I'll come back to soybean. 50% of the global soybean production is traded now, compared to rice, which is 10. Just think if we go to 20, we'll be trading 100 million tons of rice annually there. Other thing is the increasing concentration of the export side, largely because of Indian entry into the market in a big way there. So if you look at the 4 major Asian exporters, they actually account for 78%. The rest of the world, US and other smaller Egypt, other things, Uruguay, other things, they account for 18% there. So it's literally Asian crop produced in Asia, consumed in Asia, traded in Asia. Still, there are many other crops also becoming Asian crop. Potato used to be European, now it's actually Asian crop. So, we actually account for majority of the crop now becoming Asian crop there. So this is also, that India and Vietnam, that's where the concentration is increasing. You see 2008, they account for a fourth of a trade. 25% of the global trade accounted for them. Now they account for more than half of the trade. The reason I'm picking India and Vietnam, because these are the 2 exporters where rice is very important politically also. These are the 2 exporters which can close the border if there is some domestic issue on the rice side, either production issue, price issue. These exporters can close the border, put export ban, put export tax, but they account for more than 50% of the rice right now. What we need more exporters like Pakistan in the market who are there to export. They're producing for the sake of export. Your market will be a lot more stable, like wheat, corn, beans, if you have more exporters like Pakistan, US or Thailand like that. But India, Vietnam, they account for half of it. They also bring that uncertainty to the market. If they have a domestic issue, India is accounting for 40% of the trade, but still domestic food security is the primary thing. They're producing rice for their own people. Rice trade is just afterthought. Trade is India is just a residual. They care less if they don't trade, as long as their primary goal is to feed their own 1.4 billion people, and we should be happy that India has been able to feed their own population there. If India enters the market as an importer, it's more problem than actually solution there. So these 2 countries, accounting for half of the trade, also bring that uncertainty to the market, because the trade is a residual in their country there. On the import side, is completely opposite. We have very small, scattered importers there, more than 100 importers there. You can see the highest is Philippines, China, 4 or 5% there. So the import side is very, very scattered and getting more scattered, and export side getting more concentrated there. So as if you are an economist or looking at the market, you are looking at 2 different things: export side getting more concentrated, import side getting more fragmented there. So if you're going forward, I think this is what my focus is going forward. What will be the demand there? Who is going to consume it? Because that's how the trade will be determined there. The 2 things is urbanization's income growth will drive your rice consumption future, diet diversifications, branding of rice, new rice eaters in Africa, population growth, and the government policy. These are the key drivers of consumption there. For example, in India, policies drives 40 million tons of rice annually. India provides 30 kilograms per person per month to 800 million people at 2 rupees per kg. So you can, 800, 700, 800 million people get 30 kilograms rice. So the government policy is driving part of the consumption in India. Without the policy, the consumption will probably drop quite a bit there. So we have 60% of the world populations already living in the urban area there. That's going to keep increasing. If you see world, Africa, and Asia, more and more people will be living in the urban setting, which influences their consumption pattern. So we'll have 2 billion more mouths to feed in 20 years. 2020, 15 years, we'll have 9 billion. By 2057, we'll have 10 billion. Then by 2085, we'll go to close to the 10.5, then we keep declining. Then the world population start declining there. So we are way forward. I think all of us will be gone by the time actually the population growth population number start declining there. So we have another 50, 60 years where the world population will continue to rise 10 and $10.5 billion there, 5 billion. This is the graph, this is a projection I made when I was at ERI. You can see I started my projection in 2009. So my 2010 was my first. I was projecting for 2035 rice consumption. I think this is when I was at ERI. And we are here right now in 2023. We have spot on in terms of what we projected in 2010 for 2023. We are actually underestimated by 3 million tons, primarily the COVID effect. If you look at the COVID last 3-4 years, that's where the consumption picked up little because so much rice was pushed to the government system. So we are spot on in terms of 2023. I hope we will be spot on going forward there. You can see the total consumption, all the factors I told you, is going to continue to rise. One of the major growth markets is Africa, the blue one there. So, if they cannot produce that their required demand there, they will be growing importers of rice. The trade has to increase to feed the African populations. Okay? So we have another 45 to 50 million ton increase in the rice consumption by 2035, which is not far away, which is a decade from now. 2023, we are finished. So in 10 years, we have to produce another 45 million tons, 50 million tons of rice. So it has to come somewhere, and majority of the growth happening in food, rice net importing countries. That means they have to import rice from somewhere, either Africa or Philippines or whoever. So the trade has to increase to feed this population there. These are the supply side drivers. I don't want to go through this thing. There's so many things happening on the supply side, on the climate change, soil degradations, a lot of environmental footprint rice has, rural out-migrations, declining farm sizes. You know all these things. I just want to highlight a couple of things. The crop paddy stubble burning. This is a little older picture, but if you take 2023 November, it will look very similar. Entire India was burning. They burn in November. Not only Punjab, Haryana, the way we look at it, because we look at the smoke coming to Delhi, that's in the news, but all over India, the burning is happening. We don't hear about it because it's, it's not in the major urban cities, so nobody talks about it. So it's not only South Asia or India burning paddy. That's a very misnomer. That paddy straw is only burnt in India. Yes, it's burnt in India in November. If you look, this is actually a picture I took in Haryana, Karnal, from my hotel room. It looked like Gaza Strip, as if the Israelis are bombing Gaza Strip. Look like, the fire you can see from there. It's in November, second week of November there. This is for Southeast Asia in March. Whatever we do in November in South Asia, same thing is done by farmers in Southeast Asia in March. Okay, so that's the picture you see. The burning in March in India, lot less, or South Asia, lot less. A lot of burning happened in Southeast Asia there. So burning is a major global phenomenon, particularly in Asia, in case of rice there, where farmers need to plant the next crop. They don't have the time, so they just burn. So we really don't have any sort of feasible economic solution to get out of this problem. Both technology, everything, there is nothing there out there for the majority of the farmers to it's illegal in India to burn, but implementation is impossible politically there. So how do you stop burning? It's illegal, but as I said, you cannot really get rid of it. Technical solutions are costly and somewhat not viable. Some of these many solutions you see, they're not viable, because you only have 15 days window to get your crop ready for the next season. So many of these solutions, happy seeders, they're expensive. The straw decomposer really doesn't work within 15 days. So there are a lot of other constraints we need to look into. Eventually, India, I was actually thinking, I was talking to somebody, some sort of check-off program, raise the money, give money to the farmers not to grow rice, wherever is a sensitive area there, Punjab, Haryana, whatever you think. Could be a solution, policy solution that just like CRP in the US, Conservation Reserve Program, 36 million acres under CRP in sensitive area. So why not India can do that and pay some of this, get couple of million hectares out of Punjab, Haryana, non-basmati rice, grow that in eastern India. Possible that you have a political will to do that there, because the technological solution not there yet. Then you have the groundwater losses all over the Asia there. This is just a picture of South Asia there. You can see the way the groundwater depletion happening, major part of the rice growing region. This is the climate change. Majority of the South Asia comes under the extreme climate risk zone. As we're moving forward in terms of the frequent drought, flood, cyclone, all these frequency increasing there. So a lot of these things happening, affecting the rice market there. Then you have the policy and market driver. I have the supply side, demand side, policy side. Self-sufficiency is back on the agenda now. Just like any sort of rice crisis happens, 2007-8, we saw that was back. Then country forgot after a few years. Now it's back on the agenda for Philippines, for many other importing countries. Now they are talking about how to achieve self-sufficiency. I was in Rice Congress last month. I actually all over the news, because I said, you can never be self-sufficient. People will probably kill me here. I said, you don't have enough arable land to produce your requirement there. Okay? So Philippines, one of the biggest constraints, they just don't have enough land there. Everything has to come from the yield growth there. Okay. So this is my last slide here, last couple of slides there. If you really want to transform the rice market globally, make it like a soybean market I told you. This is the graph. US used to be the 90% market share in global soybean market until 80s, when they used rice export as a political tool in 80s. Look at what has happened to them. Okay? They are they are not highest even. Largest exporter is Brazil. Then the second is US. Now US has a market share of 30%. That entire soybean export landscape changed from that export ban when China invested in particular in Brazil in terms of soybean sector there. This is what's happening in China. Chinese now import 100 million tons of soybean annually. Can you imagine? Chinese alone importing 100 million tons of the soybeans there. Just look at there 90% of the consumption comes from the imports. So they depend on the soybean market 90% of the requirement. The red bar you see their consumption, and the line you see their imports there. So they're importing 100 million tons of rice. So we need similar transformation of the rice market, which will take the level of trade we are talking 50 to 100, 150, 200 million tons. But the country has to depend each other. They need to ensure the supply is available, that we don't need to produce rice where supply is available. And that's what great example what has happened in the soybean market there. One of the things I think, this is my last slide, one of the things if you want to see rice market expand, particularly the trade side, India, Thailand, Vietnam, Pakistan cannot do it. This market will be sluggish if this structure remains. Yes, it will grow to 50 to 55, 60 million tons in next 20 years, 10 years. We are not going to see 100 million tons. Only way we can go to 100, 150, even 200, if we have exporters outside Asia, and they are producing for sole purpose of exporting. That's the only way you can expand that trade. Then Philippines will not worry about importing 6 million tons if they know there is enough rice there out there, just like soybean market there. So somehow the export needs to go, that concentration of exports with the climate change. Only the Asian accounting for 75% is highly risky for me. Sometimes the climate change affects the entire continent there. So we need to have exporters outside Asia, particularly in Africa, preferably, maybe in Latin America, so that we actually hedge our risk against climate change. We have exporters in Asia, Africa, Latin America, just like soybeans or wheat. If wheat, something happens in Russia, US, Canada, Australia can supply it. But rice, something happens in Asia, we are all doomed. So we need to develop exporters outside Asia, more in the public-private partnership. I think Vietnam is doing similar 100,000 hectares, high-quality rice production, some sort of backward and forward linkages there, producing quality rice for specific purpose there. So investing in exporting country for assured supply, price discovery at the regional level, some sort of price futures contract. I've been arguing that since 2008, we need a regional futures market in Asia, just like US rice market there. Some sort of transparency in the price there. So I'll stop it here. These are all my slides, what we still need to produce more. Our consumption will continue to rise. We need to restructure the export market some way so that the level of trade, amount of trade increases exponentially. 50 to 100, 150 there, not 50 to 60 in the next 2 decades we are looking at. But it all depends on whether Philippines is satisfied that they can depend on the market. Malaysia can be happy that they can depend on the market. So that dependence, that thing is not there right now. The importing countries are very concerned. There is enough rice. There may not be enough rice. India, Vietnam, they set precedent, putting this export restriction, which actually affects the sentiment in the Philippines, where they try to be self-sufficient in rice there. If they know there is rice out there, just like soybean, wheat, I think countries will be happy to depend there. With that, let me stop. Thank you very much. And I'm here to talk to you guys here. And again, India conference, Jeremy announced. Hopefully, I will see you guys there. Thank you.